Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Shannon, I write under the pen name of ST Huston. You're here on my channel where I do writing sprints Monday through Thursday. I'm also 1/3 of the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast with Ben Pick from Running to Write YouTube channel and Jamie from JM Chelly YouTube channel. I'm also part of the AuthorTube Writing Conference, the founder and conference chair with Devin. And we are in the process of setting up our time slots right now. So anybody who has submitted an application should be getting some emails within the next few weeks. We'll do that in waves. So welcome to today's special live stream. And I'm thrilled to have all of you join us and my guests to join us. We have an exciting session planned where we're going to feature two remarkable authors and the live launch of my Kickstarter project. So I see a few people in the chat already. Hello, Rachel. How's it going? Thank you so much. I've seen all the Instagram messages in our group earlier, but I have not been able to look at it because I was so busy today, but I will get to them later. Devin, hello. How's it going? There is my co-chair for the conference. And Anita, hello. How's it going? And everyone's saying hello to everyone. So if you do have any questions about Kickstarters, for the authors I'm going to be bringing on, about my Kickstarter later, please drop them in the chat with a Q, so it'll make it so much easier to find. Hello, Adeshale, how's it going? And I'm going to introduce the guests for today. So Lindsey Pogue is a genre, I hope I'm saying that right. I didn't even ask her. Did I say that right? I can see you. Just nod yes. Okay. So Lindsey Pogue is a genre-bending fiction author, best known for her soul-stirring post-apocalyptic survival stories. Her adventures cross genres and push boundaries, weaving together facts, fantasy, and timeless love stories of epic proportions. When she's not writing as her dark alter ego, Scarlett St. James, and Lindsey is wrapped in blankets, watching monster flicks with her own leading man. And Kay Webster is a USA Today bestselling author. Her titles have claimed many bestseller tags in numerous categories, translated in multiple languages, and have been adapted into audiobooks. She lives in Tornado Alley with her husband, 2 children, and her baby dog named Blue. When she's not writing, she's drinking copious amounts of coffee, she's reading, and she's researching aliens. Together, they've created the Surviving Earth Chronicles, which is a duology set in a shared post-apocalyptic world, each focusing on one of the Bennett brothers. So this is a shared world that they wrote in. Their collaborative project has culminated in the Surviving Earth Chronicles Special Edition Omnibus, which is currently live on Kickstarter and has already achieved full funding. So definitely congratulations to them. And for our viewers, there's still time to support their campaign. I have pinned the link in the chat, so you can check that at the top of the chat box. And it's also in the description box below. And it closes in 2 days, so you want to get in there and support it if you are interested in the stories. And we'll learn more about it today. You can, you can ask all the questions you have about the Kickstarter. So let's go ahead and welcome our guests onto the stream. Lindsey and Kay Webster's collaborative writing process, and we'll explore their Kickstarter journey. So hello, Lindsey and Christy. How's it going?
Hello. Hi. Hello.
If you guys
want to start, for having us.
Thank you so much for joining me. It was a great setup there. Lindsey, I think you said your PA follows my newsletter and had heard about the Kickstarter that I was doing. And then you reached out to me and you're like, hey, you want to cross promo? I'm like, hey, you want to come on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect. Yeah. Meant to be.
Yeah. So, well, to start, can you guys tell everybody a little bit about yourselves, what you publish, and anything else that you want the audience to know?
Sure. I'll go first. So I'm Lindsey. And yes, Pogue. Perfect. You did a great job. I've been publishing since 2012, and it's been quite a ride. I actually wrote my first new adult manuscript when I was in high school, and I'm going to date myself, but it was one of those situations where you write a book and you think that, it's never going to get published. So you shove it away somewhere. And in my case, it was on a floppy disk. So I thought it would never be published. And also new adult wasn't a thing back then. So I also was like, nobody's going to read this. I don't even know what genre this is. But now today we have new adult, which is really exciting. So that's one of the reasons why I have the pen name is, even though I've published my first book as a post-apocalyptic romance, which also was kind of new. It wasn't really a genre back when, in 2012. That's why I created the pen name Scarlett St. James, so that I could also get my romance book out there that I wrote all years ago. So anyways, yeah, so that's me. I have been doing this for over a decade, and I have about 30 books in dystopian, post-apocalyptic, and historical fantasy. So that's me.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm Kay Webster. I've been doing it a long time too. I haven't been using floppy disks or anything because I'm much younger. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I've been doing it. I think I just celebrated my 11th year of publishing. So, and the reason I got started, I've always been like a super book nerd and love to read, and thrillers were my main thing, and horror. But one day I had a friend tell me she was writing a book, and I was like, what? Like, she doesn't love books like I love books. She sort of likes books, but she doesn't like live and breathe books like I do. And so I was like, tell me more about this. Like, what do you mean you're writing a book? Like, what are you going to do with it? And in my mind, like, people like on the movies, they sat with their little typewriter and they just, would get like 3 sentences down, and then they'd crumple up the paper and throw it away. And I was like, that sounds really terrible. And then they'd finish this big, huge manuscript and mail it off to the publisher. And then they would say, oh, denied, we don't want you or whatever. And I was like, that sounds awful. She's like, no, I'm going to self-publish. And I was like, wait, I need to know everything. And so literally she spent the day telling me all about self-publishing. And I turned around and came home and wrote my first book in 10 days. That's how like on fire it was. It was a short book, but still. And I was like, okay. And then I just published it and then wrote another one and published it. And then I have, 150 plus books later, and I just never stopped. And I don't think she ever wrote her first book. Like, I think she just,
oh my God.
Wow. She just lit a fire under me, and then I just took off with it. And it's like almost like I needed someone to give me permission that it was okay to do this. And I did it. So yeah, it's been a wild ride for the past 10 plus years.
That's a fun story. I didn't know that one.
There you go. Learn something new.
Yeah.
A few more people come in. Sabrina came in. Hello.
Hi, Sabrina.
Nicole's bookish Nook. Nicole and Leslie. Hello. And thanks so much, Leslie. Yeah. I was teetering on that 2000 at the end of last year, and now I'm just staying right about there. 10 days, Rachel says. Like, really? Of course, her and I, we both write chunkers. So, but, and is it possible to learn this power? Teach me your ways.
Well, I think it's just like obsessive, like don't do anything else. Don't, cook for the family or do the laundry or the house, right. Or, barely go to the bathroom or eat. Like, that's all you got to do.
All right. Well, I'd like to ask you guys some questions because I was totally fascinated by what you guys have done with your duology. So you guys collaborated on writing the duology. That's the omnibus, Surviving Earth Chronicles. And this includes a book that both of you guys wrote in a shared world based on the Bennett brothers. So can you tell us a little bit about this project?
Yeah. We basically are both obviously in love with post-apocalyptic things. She, has been writing them forever, and I've been reading them forever. And we both share the love of watching them on TV. So we've seen all the movies, all the shows, and so there was just like a friendship that was kind of, bonded through that kind of thing. And then we decided that we were going to write, a crazy world and write some stories in there. And we've been working on it. We were just talking about this the other day, like 5 years or something?
Yeah, it's kind of been 5 years in the making.
It's like a passion project for us. Like, we wanted to do it, but we were both busy and we had lots going on. And so we ended up, working together to write this like world. And then we took our own stories within the world and then made them brothers so that they could, connect, and it would be more fun for the readers. So, yeah.
So what was the inspiration? Like, what was that conversation like? Like, hey, you want to write something post-apocalyptic? I mean, what was the inspiration for writing this, these 2 books?
Well, I think at first, actually, it was a conversation we had years ago with other authors in the post-apocalyptic genre that I knew. And we all were like, let's create a world together. We'll each write a story. Because that's how I started. When the very first book that I published it was in a world that I created with another author, but we literally co-wrote the series together, co-wrote the this whole series together. It was a 6-book series. And so I was already familiar with world building with another author. And so we were like, okay, well, we should all create something together. But at the end of the day, the only 2 people that were really interested and at least really dedicated to doing it was me and Christy. So I essentially, I don't even know if maybe a year went by and I was like, hey, this isn't going to happen with everybody. Do you just want to do it together? And so we were like, let's do it. And our commitment to each other was, obviously we have other things going on, so we'll just make this our fun passion project. And so that's why it's taken so long to get this far. But yeah, we think, I mean, honestly, I don't remember how we came up with this world exactly, but I think it pretty much started out with how most of our conversations are, like some crazy thing coming up, like in the news or whatever. And then we just started going down this rabbit hole of all the crazy things that could happen and that sort of thing. And so we would, you know, pass each other ideas and just kind of brainstorm from there. There was a lot of these types of chats that, you know, went into creating the world. But once we got the world situated, and in our case specifically, I don't know, do you want to talk specifically about what the world is, Christy? So that
basically the world that we came up with was back in 1973, an asteroid, Gertrude, hit the moon, which knocked it off its axis, and which as a result screwed up Earth. But it wasn't like real fast or cataclysmic right away. It's been happening slowly up until 2025 or whatever. And so my character, he's 40 years old, and he's been living with the world's going to end for his entire life. So he's just like immune to it, you know? And so, but our stories start when the world really is actually going crazy. Like it's starting to boil over at this point, and all these crazy things are happening. And so we basically, you know, could do anything with that, because, you know, there was just so much you could do with, you know, I mean, weather, earth, like ocean, whatever. And anyway, it was fun, like terrorizing the whole United States.
Well, I think one thing that was really fun for me, because I have written other, you know, post-apoc stories, is we created a world where everything happened in the past, but it also didn't, right? So it was, in a sense, it's kind of a dystopian world. So the weather's already significantly altered. People are already, you know, have long since, you know, evacuated the area around, you know, however many, I can't remember the numbers we used, but the areas around like Yellowstone and stuff, because everything is starting to get really bad and people are scared. And so the world is already really crazy. But then, you know, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but, you know, stuff hits the fan. And so that's kind of like right when our story starts. But it was just kind of fun to really think about the world of what it was like for the last 50 years. So you have these moon maniac people who were alive when this happened, and they have been prepping and ready for the end. They've known it's going to be, you know, it's going to be coming. And then you have these other people, the younger generation, like our characters, who it's always been that way. So it's just like, oh yeah, okay, one day. We've heard that for the last, you know, 30 years. So I don't know, it's just kind of a different reality to write the characters in, whereas usually that hasn't, you know, I haven't been able to write something like that before. So I thought that was kind of a fun little twist on it too. And because, I mean, it's all fiction, obviously. But because we did create a world that, you know, like Chrissy was saying, anything could really happen. It was just really cool to take elements of Mother Nature and see how crazy we could get with it. So
did you guys like use any like factual science in your determination of what things would happen?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, I think we found, especially for the whole, you know, if an asteroid hit the moon, or if anything changed with the moon, what that would do to Earth. I mean, there's so many like hypothesis of what could happen, that it's like one extreme was, oh, then the world is just, all these horrible things are going to happen immediately and then everyone's going to die. And then other people would say, well, that isn't likely because X, Y, and Z. So we took whatever worked for our story and we made it work to the way, you know, that we wanted to. But yeah, I mean, we definitely did research. And I mean, especially when it comes to the world, my story in particular, there's a lot of volcanoes and wildfires, and a lot of it, like the wildfires and all that, like I know from from my personal experience. Volcanoes, I picked a location that does have 200 extinct volcanoes underneath it, so it was really fun to actually use scientific facts based on like Texas, and play with that and bring different elements of that to life. Like what if they weren't dormant or extinct anymore, and what would that look like? And so
I love that. All right, so what are some things, like you guys talked about how you started this project years ago with other writers, but it was just the two of you who continued on. So what are things that a writer should consider before jumping into a project with another author, whether it is a series co-creation or a Kickstarter like you guys have also done? And what are the benefits of working with another writer?
I mean, I've done tons of co-writes and co-worlds and things. And I think that, there's got to be a dedication to the continuity of the world or the series. So you really have to be on page with the person if you're writing separate stories within the same world, and make sure that you're definitely have hashed out the entire thing. And then even when writing your stories, as you come up across things, how does this fit into our world? Is this going to connect to your story? And really ironing those out so that way it's a better experience. Right. Yeah. And then as far as co-writes and stuff, for me, it's always fun because you've got someone you're being accountable with. And they're waiting on their chapter or whatever to move on to the next thing. But the downside, I would say, is that you also give up things, especially if you guys are totally different writers. So if me and Lindsey were co-writing a book, I would know that I would need to tone down some of my extravagant taboo stuff that I like to throw into my stories, because that's really not what she does. And she would probably be not so, I don't know what you do, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I don't have to reel you in, you'd have to reel me in. But yeah, you do have to give up some of your own creative liberties because you're sharing a world or a book with somebody. And sometimes that's nothing that I have done with Lindsey has been annoying, but sometimes co-writing books, that is kind of annoying because you're but I really wanted that. And if they're really against it, then you really have to decide, is this worth an argument or so
I think that, so I agree. I mean, it's really nice to have a partner in crime, right? Somebody to take a chance with you, somebody to brainstorm ideas with, to get excited about your story with, because I think we can all relate to being an author most of the time is very solitary and can be lonely, right? So that's a really fun part. And yeah, I think it worked for us because we knew that this was a fun project for us. We didn't have a really crazy timeline we were trying to adhere to. I mean, we picked up writing and set it aside, and picked up writing and set it aside based on what was going on in our lives and our own deadlines and all of that. So I think you just need to go into it with an agreement of, what is the goal? What is your process going to look like so that you aren't let down or frustrated? And that was something that I think we were really clear with at the beginning, is there's no pressure with this. We wanted it to be fun. And again, I've worked on other things too. So I can speak to the fact that, yeah, you definitely have to give and take, and something you have to be realistic about.
So considering that it took you guys, this span of 5 years, right, that you guys were writing this, how did you maintain consistency with, each of you writing a brother in the same family?
Well, I think I can say that it's because Lindsey is very great at outlining. And so she came into the Google Drive armed with 1,000 documents. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And everything from every dream her character ever had since the beginning of time, she had it all. And I was like, okay, so I know these characters in and out. No, it wasn't really that bad, but it was she's a great note taker, and I am the exact opposite. I come in with an idea and a vibe, and I'm ready to go, and she's like, well, tell me more. And I'm like, hold on, let me extract it from my brain, so it definitely was.
Yeah, that was definitely our learning curve, was the me learning not to overwhelm her, I think,
Yeah.
because we do work very differently. But you know, it is what it is.
That was
It all worked out in the end.
That was fun. And the thing I think too is within those 5 years, we weren't writing the whole time. We were story building and spitballing and adding things to our documents of ideas and concepts. And then when we really were ready to start writing, we sat down and we started having like face-to-face calls. And we would basically build and build and build. And then it was like, okay, now we're writing. And we did try to write at the same time, like the same time of year, that sort of thing. And then I think there was even a point where I was writing and then I had to stop because I had to finish a project, and and then I had to catch back up so that we were kind of still like in the same like excitement and vibe and everything. And we would have meetings still in between those times. And I think that really helped keep things fresh and like on the correct course or whatever.
And I
So
think
how did you guys decide? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say something that I think is important too, is because you did take a break and I did finish mine, you went through and you read mine, and then you were like, okay, so this is all making sense. Let me tweak these 2 things or whatever it was. And then you finished your story. And so I think that was really helpful too. And I'm not saying, everybody has a different process and that wasn't something we planned, but I think that really helped lend itself to
the consistency
the consistency.
Right,
so.
right. Well, and because too, like our stories is about the 2 brothers, and one's in San Francisco and one's in Texas, and they're basically trying to meet each other in Kansas where they have family that is like a prepper guy. And so her story went first. And so since she wrote her story first, even though they were pretty much on the same timeline, I finished the story, if that makes sense. So like I saw where her book ended, and then I kind of dropped my people in at the end in this little area that she had created on her story, and then linked everything to make sure that it all ended smoothly. And if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, so what motivated you guys to launch a joint Kickstarter campaign?
Neither one of us wanted to do it alone.
Oh,
we were like, I've always wanted to do one, but it seemed like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work. And that's what's funny, I think, is because that's where Lindsey's lots of documentation and writing and notes and everything has really come in handy and saved us, because she's taken in the back end of things where I'm like, this is like way over my head, but she seems to understand it and goes in there and does all that. And then I just took over on like a lot of the creative parts, like, the cover or whatever. And so it was fun for us to kind of like divide and conquer.
I was like, didn't you do the artwork or some of the artwork?
Yeah, I did the cover, and then I also did some character art.
Artwork. Yeah.
So we kind of like,
she blew her shoulder out doing those character arts.
I got through it. We have 4 characters, 2 couples, and I got 3 of the characters done, and we still needed 1 more. And I was hurting so bad, and she was like, we really need that 4th character. And I'm like, I don't think I could do it. And then I finally was able to whip something out, but it was kind of hard.
All right. So you kind of told me a little bit, she had the writing side, you had the artsy side. Was there anything else that you guys had to figure out who was going to be in charge of what when it came to the Kickstarter?
I think really it kind of just evolved naturally because I'm kind of a control freak. I took the lead as far as the trying to learn it. And I mean, the other part too is I know I want to do another one. So I want to know what I'm doing, so it was pretty natural for me to lean into that aspect and try and figure it out. And then I would go to Chris and be like, okay, this is what we need, the artsy stuff. So can you start working on X, Y, and Z or whatever?
Right. And it works.
So yeah, I think it's just my natural personality and just the way creating this world and writing these books together has been. This is just kind of how it all panned out. But yeah.
Well, and there was times where you would be like doing all this difficult like admin stuff, and I would feel really bad, and I'd be like, okay, give me a list of things to do. Like, give me some things that I can do that I can do that that are hard, but like that I can do, you know, like the cover took a long time. That was the longest cover I've ever made ever. And because there was so many elements on that cover. And so like, I was glad to do my own thing. Like I would much rather spend hours and hours and hours on the artwork than to be figuring out all the verbiage of each category on the Kickstarter. Like that just seemed so boring. So she says, I'm learning because I want to do another one. And I'm like, I don't think I'll ever do another one. Oh, no. That's so hard.
And just to show, I'll put it up on the screen. It's going to cover all of us. But here is the banner for the Kickstarter. And you can see the book there that she's talking about with the cover art. And then that's one of the character artworks that she also did.
Yep, that's her character.
Yeah.
She did good.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks great.
And then Lindsey formatted the interior of the book, and she did an amazing job. And we have tons of like color photos and we got really creative since our book has so many
show it.
Yeah, it's super cool. And since there's so many elements on the cover, we were able to like pull them in and put them where they go in the story. And so it's definitely going to be like an Easter egg hunt for our readers.
Yeah, this entire theme is, we wanted it to feel like a post-apoc scrapbook. So it's really, really cool.
I love that cover. It's perfect for what you guys are doing.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
we have
some of the interior stuff.
We have the character maps of like the states that have gone dark and some of their journey. We have articles, newspaper articles that we created. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yep. I think it's cool.
Hard too, because I want to show everybody everything, but I don't want to give it all away either because it's so neat. But there's some fun stuff in there. We have some the character art in there as if they're actually, drawn in, and it's neat.
Super and a little bit about the two different books.
Yeah. What the two books are about. We also have annotations in there, so notes from us.
Yeah.
So like there's little spicy scene that Christy took out of hers. I think she put a little annotation there with a little bonus.
Yeah, I know.
Well, bonus look at what was there before, and
because I'm used to writing really like racy romance, with the taboo and the forbidden, and I know that the post-apocalyptic romances, yes, it's there, but it's not like over the top like what I was used to. So I did write it in originally, and then I really had to scale it back because it just didn't fit in the story when they're literally running for their lives half the time. So, I did
in the movie when they're trying to run for the bad guy, but then they stop and kiss, and they're like,
yeah, exactly. and so it's like, okay, you guys are dirty and filthy, and haven't eaten in days, and y'all are going to do that? Okay. Priorities, people.
I love it.
What were some of your guys' unexpected challenges that you faced in setting up the campaign and running it?
I think that if you've never done a Kickstarter before, it can definitely be overwhelming because there's just a lot to learn. I think one of the most difficult parts, though, is that I wouldn't have known this if I didn't talk to author friends who have done Kickstarters and read the Kickstarter for Authors book, which I can talk more about later. But I think overall, when you go into your account and it says, okay, these are your tiers in your story, that's not where it ends. And I think the frustrating part for me was I didn't know. Essentially, every time you move a step forward, your dashboard changes, right? So like then you get accepted to run a campaign, and then you have this pre-launch page that you didn't know you would have access to before. So then that's a whole other ball game, and you're trying to get that all situated. And then you finally get that sorted, and then your campaign goes live, and then your dashboard changes again. And there's a ton new things that you have to learn. So it's just a constant evolution, I think. And again, it was a lot to learn, but if I hadn't have read that book and then also talked to author friends, I think I would have been way more overwhelmed than I was initially. So I think that for me was you don't know what you don't know, right? Until you're in it, and you don't want to screw anything up. So it's a little daunting for sure.
And then even when you do get in there, you realize there is a lot to it. So,
yeah.
It's just,
And that's the part. I don't think you can't see everything that's involved until you're doing it. And so you don't really know. You can't really 100% prepare if you've never done it. And so I think that's actually a really good point, is you don't know until you try it. And so maybe think of your first Kickstarter as a learning experience and go with that expectation and be kind to yourself, because it's a lot for sure.
Yeah. I went in and did 9 tiers on my very first Kickstarter. And that was like kicking myself in the butt for that. But at least I threw myself in the deep end and learned quite a bit about it. But I would suggest for authors who are trying it, and I wish I would have done this, is try just something little to start with, something that just so you can get your feet wet and figure it out.
Yeah, I think I did. I think what I have 4 or 5 tiers. I need to do something manageable.
Yeah, they said 5 tiers is like the best number to have for a new starter Kickstarter.
Good.
So
that's awesome.
I went with 5 tiers this next time.
Well, again, right? You don't know until you try it and you learn, and so I understand. There's already a gazillion things that I would do differently next time, So
yeah, and then you have to try and remember it. Make notes. I would say that make some notes as you're doing your Kickstarter, so the next time you do one. Because I'm not a Russell Nolte either. I'm not running a Kickstarter every couple months. So, yeah. It's been 1.5 years since I ran my last Kickstarter, my first one. So, and things change on the platform too. So.
That's what I was just going to say. I bet you some things have changed, for you.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think you just have to learn by doing. So definitely just go in with that expectation. Be proud of yourself that you even tried, because it is kind of scary.
Yeah.
But you can do it. Everybody can do it. Yep. And I definitely think that, again, it's really hard, and I will do things differently next time, but I'll do it again at some point. Again, I don't think I'm going to be like Russell either and do them that frequently. It's a lot of work, but I know it will get easier over time. And it's just really fun to get extra creative with these projects, because I think that was one of the things that Christy and I were talking about, is we weren't ready to let the world go yet. We wanted to keep doing something. We wanted readers to be able to experience it the way that we saw it and the way that we planned for it and that sort of thing. And so we were like, let's just give it a whirl.
Well, and that kind of makes sense too. We spent 5 years building up to get it done. So to just be done, it was kind of like, but wait, what about our monthly phone chat?
What can we work on now?
We're going to talk about.
Have you thought about continuing and like doing another story in the world?
Well, we considered that,
yeah. I mean, I wrote a bonus epilogue, and I immediately was like, I need to keep writing this story.
I mean, unless the world is ending with your guys' books, the world is ending much more.
It's a happy for now.
We want our characters to get their happily ever after and live on. So they'll figure out a way.
Yep.
Time to colonize.
It's really hard. Nothing comes easy, right? Nothing.
Yeah. So yeah, and you said that you wanted your readers to experience it, which probably led to why you guys did the annotations and the artwork. So do you want to talk a little bit about your guys' inclusion of that, and how what inspired it? Like, what inspired you guys to do that?
Well, I think I already do. I've done some special editions, not through Kickstarter, for my readers in my bookshop, and I love including annotations. And I think part of that comes really naturally to me, because I also have a membership and I kind of share stuff with readers early anyway. So I already had little notes to them, and then I was like, what am I doing with all this stuff? Like, I should start doing something, right? So I've started collecting just all my goodies and all my things, and then adding them into collector's editions and stuff like that. And so when we were going to do this, it's like, annotations are really easy. There are notes, there are thoughts, they're not hard. So why not throw some of those in there? And because of the style of the book, I mean, it worked out really well to be able to do something like that, because again, it does feel personal to people, right? So it feels very kind of yes, the full stories are there, but there's so many other goodies. It feels very pieced together. And so it just made sense to include our notes and our personal reflections as well. I mean, there's not a gazillion, but there's enough to where, you know, people can get a little look behind the curtain and see why this was important. Why is this in this scene? So.
Yeah. I had supported an author years ago now. And if you did the pre-sale, was it, you know, if you bought the book before it went live, and she had like a get together on call, and you had just showed your receipt that you got it. And then she gave us the first 3 chapters with annotations of the book. And I was like, oh, I really want to do this one day. So when I did my first Kickstarter, I thought about it, but I thought, I'm going to do what Russell Nolte did, which he does. It's sort of the same thing, but it's just audio. So he did audio commentary chapter by chapter. Oh, so I did that for my first Kickstarter. So I still have that in my first book, and I can put that with my next one. So that's with my next one, but I'm offering that again. Yeah. But I thought I definitely wanted to, I'm not doing a hardcover or paperback. I'm just doing ebook annotations edition. So I didn't want to have to format another book.
No, and I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, that's why it's so cool and why we do this stuff. We can do whatever we want, you know? And so I think that, yeah, do whatever feels comfortable, and maybe it will fit better in a different project later on down the road. But for now, whatever feels right.
For sure. So, all right. You guys already talked about, you did the formatting yourselves. So adding annotations. Did you learn anything, like any best practices for adding annotations and artwork to the books? Like what formatting program did you use?
Well, I used Vellum. I definitely had to explore a little bit. Like I said, I've done some special editions before. So I have really played with what the best way is to get bonus content in there that's not just narration, you know, just not just prose and stuff. But I think really it depends on the project. I think for us, so we're really trying to go for a certain feel for ours. And so there was a lot of playing around with what looks scrapbooky or what feels old or used, or I wanted Christie's name I wanted her to get front and center credit for her sketches. And so on her in the book, I was trying to think of like, what's a good way to do this? And so I actually just made it like a sketch on a piece of paper and like a signature at the bottom, you know, because I want her name on there so that the reader knows that, you know, that the author did it, and not have to question it. But I think it's just really trying to figure out what your goal is and what feels. I've been working on this for a while. The interior, I gave myself plenty of, you know, lead time. So I knew it was going to be to match that cover that she made. I knew it was going to be an intensive process to do.
And then all of the elements that were on the cover had to be saved.
They're also worked into the story.
Individual elements, so they could go into the book too. And so a lot of saving.
How much time did you guys give yourself to set up the Kickstarter before you actually launched?
We started, I think, in October. I started setting it up. So that's another thing I had on my list of recommendations, is to give yourself plenty of lead time. Don't think you can rush this. If your intent is to semi-enjoy the process, don't rush yourself, and to be successful at it, right? I think that for me, I needed to do that because I'm already an anxious person. So trying to throw myself in that and not give myself plenty of lead time to kind of take my time and learn as I go. And I also really wanted to have that pre-launch page up so that we could have people following, you know, long before we launched. The problem with doing it so far in advance is there was a couple of times where we were wondering if our date was going to change because of life, you know, like we had our date and then, you know, 4 months to wait is a long time. Things happen. But you just kind of have to roll with it. That's why we never once said the date was going to launch, because we knew we would shoot ourselves in the foot.
It was always soon.
Yeah. In February. And then there was one point I was like, oh, are we going to need to do this in March? And then we made it work. But yeah, so that was, you know, again, you just have to figure out how to go with the flow. And
yeah. I never set a date either, which is pretty good that I didn't, because I had planned to do it in June of last year. And then I pushed it off to September. And then I pushed it off to October. Then I pushed it off to January.
Yeah.
And then to February, middle of February. Now it's end of February. So today is when it's launching. But those were in my mind. I was just kind of putting months out there. But mine's been up for 9 months, I guess. It's been, because I thought it was going to go sooner. I really did. But
they say the most time you can give yourself, the better, right? The more people you have following your campaign. I mean, it's really nice to give people a place to land on and follow when you're talking about it leading up to it, because if you just launch it, you lose all those potential people who are interested, who would have been interested weeks or months leading up to it, because they would have forgotten all about it, so it's really smart. And is that a new thing that they've done, or have they always had the pre-launch page?
They've had it for as long as I've been doing Kickstarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But I think
Russell talked about it like it had been around for a while.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's really smart. So I would say my recommendation is to utilize it as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to not. But that being said, you do have to, in order to get the pre-launch page, you have to already set up a campaign. You have to pretty much, you can change things after you get accepted, but before you can get accepted, you have to set everything up. Yeah. And put a lot of time and effort into it. So, you have to essentially know what you're going to be doing it for. I don't know if that could change, but
I did go through all of that the first time, and that might be different for you maybe in the future. But when I set up my second one, like for my tiers, because you have to set it up before, you have to set up your stuff in order to get approved, that before you get your pre-launch page. For my tiers, my first one was my ebook. My second one was my paperback. My third one was my hardback. Just pictures of those. And I know that was not going to be what it was, but it got approved. So I had, I think, maybe a couple paragraphs in my story about, and then my cover art. So that was it. And I don't know.
Good. No, I actually got it rejected the first time. And so I had to go to one of my other friends who had done one. And I said, what is going on? I don't want to keep adding this stuff that I don't know the answers to. And she goes, just add as much as you can, so that they will accept you and you can change it later. And then you'll have, because I was getting confused between the actual, when you're setting it up, you don't get to set up the launch page. You're setting up your campaign page. And I was like, but I don't want this information on there. And she said, well, there's going to be a whole new page that opens up to you once you get accepted. And then that's your pre-launch page that you can go and you can tailor that to being your landing page before it launches. And it all started making more sense to me, but I was being very greedy with my details. Like, I don't want to put all of this nonsense up there that isn't true. And then she goes, just put it up. You can change it later. And so
it could be too, because I've already had a Kickstarter that was successful that they didn't really nitpick mine.
And that's another thing she said, which I'm assuming if you have never done one, they look a lot closer at what you're doing, and they will, because I think it's real people doing it. I might be wrong. But I don't know that it's like an algorithm or, a bot or anything. I think people are looking at them. Again, I don't quote me on that, but yeah. So it was my first time. So they were really looking at me closely. So I had to go in there and put a lot of time and energy, and that I later redid. Let's be very clear, because I knew that was not what I was going to be doing, but I didn't have the information because I set my page up 4 months early or whatever, so just, again, it's all part of learning. But
and I would say too, what was probably different is that when I set mine up, they had not yet had the pre-launch page where you could add stuff underneath your cover. It was just the cover art. That was it.
Oh, maybe that's what I was thinking, because I thought something was new. Okay.
Yeah. So that's new. That came in after I set up my Kickstarter.
Okay.
And I was like, where is this? I don't have it. I guess I just don't have it. I remember saying that. I was like, I don't have this. I guess and then I found it the other day and I was like, oh, there it is. And I added stuff. I was like, a little too late, but I've got people following, so it's okay.
It's really cool, the stuff you can do with it. I'm sure it's changed, we're just talking things that have changed over the years, but it's really, really cool. You can embed videos and drag and drop images right onto it. It doesn't have to be super complicated. It's just time consuming, but I mean, you can have a lot of fun with it. I actually like doing that stuff.
And the tabs on the side, or the outline of what's there, they didn't have that the first time I did my Kickstarter. So it was just my story and risks. That was it.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. I think one thing I wasn't expecting is, even if you look at it like on your desktop, the way that you are seeing it, not even from behind the scenes, in your account, like if you're looking at it as an outside viewer, it looks so different, and it's when navigating so different on your phone that I almost feel like if you've never been on Kickstarter before and you're trying to support an author or anyone's project, it's I think a little more confusing on a phone, because everything, you have to know where to go to click on everything. You already don't know what you're doing. And then you have to know which tab in the menu to click on so that you can find the rewards or find the story or find the whatever. That was kind of surprising that it was, I don't know, that it wasn't a little more intuitive, like on a phone, because everybody's always on their phone. I definitely, as a backer, I've always used my desktop. So I had no idea. What it would look like. So yeah, that was surprising to me. But
we do have a question from the audience. Devin says, how does the business side of co-authoring work? Like split payments, pay for editing, etc. I'm assuming because you guys each wrote your own book that you paid for your own books, but then how'd you do it when you came together for the omnibus? Or do you need, let me leave that up there. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. So the omnibus, we're only doing the Kickstarter together. We're not going to sell it anywhere else. So the money that comes in from the Kickstarter goes to get the books and whatever, printing and all the fees and that, as far as that goes. Because it's my account, I guess it's going to go in mine. But other than that, and then I distribute as, however it works out. But everything else, as far as the individual books, yeah, we did everything on our own. We paid for our own covers and our own editing and all that. So, yeah. Okay. And then, yeah, when we do the back end after the Kickstarter ends, that's going to be a whole other learning curve. We're going to figure out. I know Chrissy's going to do a lot of the fulfillment because she's used to packing and shipping like really big orders. But we're also not in the same state, so it's going to be fun to see how this is going to go.
We're going to do book plates where we've signed both on the same one. So we're getting special ones that I think I was going to tell you that I was going to put the numbering on there so we could write in there like one of how many ever was ordered, and then have her sign them all, and then I'll sign them all, and then those go all into the book whenever we get ready to send them.
And then all the goodies, and we'll have to get all that sorted. And
I have to say that fulfillment was the hardest part for me, because I went through Ingram for printing, and they had issues, like their printers went down, and then they were extended shipping times. I hadn't even hit Christmas yet, of course, and I got everything out before Christmas, so I didn't have to worry about that. But it's just like
I have really bad luck when it comes to that sort of thing. So we're giving ourselves until May. I don't think it's going to take that long, but we tried to be really careful. So I'm hoping, there are tweaks to be made. There's tweaks to be made right here. But and the interior is mostly done. We have stuff for backers that we're going to be putting in there and a couple other things. But other than that, hopefully, the book shouldn't take too long to finalize, and then it's really whatever we're up against as far as the printing.
So you have to rely on somebody else. That makes it harder.
Yeah. Well, and we're still up in the air about who we're going to use, but if we end up going through the place that I normally use, I'm used to them being really fast, but they're also way more expensive. So we'll have to weigh that out and see how it ends up. But once I get the books, they'll go fast, because like she said, we ship all the time. So I've got a helper that comes in on Mondays, and we'll just knock them all out,
It's great that you have that experience already.
Yeah. So that helped as far as like when it came to all the packaging material, because she was like, what about packaging material? I was like, I got it. I got boxes. I got, bubble wrap. I got tape, like so much that you don't even want to know. It's just stacked everywhere. Like, we're good.
All right. So I'm going to ask one last question, which is, based on your Kickstarter experience so far, what are the top 3 pieces of advice you would offer to authors looking to crowdfund their projects?
I've kind of touched on these. I would definitely don't rush yourself. Give yourself plenty of lead time. I feel like I can't stress that enough, because you are learning it the whole time, right? And I think that it's really easy. You're always your own worst enemy in a lot of these instances. So I think just giving yourself as much learn time or lead time as you can, so that you can read the, I wrote it down too, so that to make sure that people can find I know it's Kickstarter for Authors by Anthea Sharp, I think is her name, right? Anyways, I guess maybe I didn't write it down. So definitely read it. I think that it was super helpful, and talk to friends who have done it so that you can really get some inside info on it and what to expect, because everybody has a different experience. And I think we also talked about the rewards. I only did a few for a reason, and I definitely don't regret that decision. So be really strategic in what you have to offer. You don't have to do really crazy things. So if it's your first one, I would definitely, just pick something doable. And I don't know if anybody can hear that, but apparently the neighbor has people outside my house working in their yard. It's really loud. I apologize. And then I also mentioned the pre-launch page. I would 100% use that to your advantage in any way that you can. So start spreading the news as soon as possible. So I think those are my...
Something that came up with us too was being realistic about the costs of the fulfillment and all of everything involved, because, like for me, I kind of willy-nilly it sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, we'll just do this and we'll do this and we'll do this. But then when I actually put it to paper and I look at the cost, then we, had to have the hard conversation about pricing, because I'm like, okay, wait a minute, we're going to have to cover this and cover that, and like we need to bump the prices up. And I know Lindsey, I don't know if you were feeling that way, but a couple times I felt like you were like, oh my gosh, that's too expensive. But I'm like, no, we have to cover it. And it wasn't like we was some big huge profit margin or anything. It was just making sure that we didn't go in.
Well, and that was the hard part, is keeping in mind every time you're pricing that Kickstarter is going to take percentage. So you're like, oh yeah, that cannot dip into our shipping costs. That cannot, because we have to, otherwise that's coming out of our pocket. So yeah, it's definitely a lot you kind of have to retrain your brain a little bit to really think about those things. I think if you already have a bookstore or run your own bookshop, that it's probably a little easier. But yeah, so.
Yeah, that's definitely, I always say to people, I said, don't pay people to run your Kickstarter. So you want to make sure you have a profit in there.
Yeah. That's also a good point.
I've talked to several authors who are like, yeah, I just broke even, or I end up losing like so much money. And I'm like, so you paid people to do your Kickstarter basically. So and that comes down to pricing. Yeah. And
I also, to that, I would say also, when it comes to the tiers, I've talked to authors who have gone so overboard. They had so much fun, which is great, but they had so much fun and offered such like really amazing things in their tiers that they never even made their money back, because it's like they just had way too much fun. So that's another thing to keep in mind too.
And that's where you can get really creative with the digital products. Because that is like you adding, more cool things to your Kickstarter, but they're not costing you anything. And I think like we already kind of like with my membership club that I have, and Lindsey probably is the same way, but you kind of I don't know, we already have experience as far as like providing things for our members, and that the ones that are digital are always like your money makers, because you're not paying for anything physically, which is what costs so much. So definitely fattening up the tiers with digital items helps like make that margin larger, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So and when I'm doing my figures, I always try to see that I get an 80% profit margin on my digital stuff and at least a 30% profit margin on my physical, so that I have a 50% overall profit margin.
That's smart.
That is smart.
That's what so I'll redo all my stuff until I get to that.
See, that's way more technical, but like my brain goes there, but it's not as technical as that. But I totally get what you're saying.
And this is a question for me. I actually did a 3.5-hour Kickstarter tutorial, like masterclass, after my Kickstarter was done a year and a half ago. So they're wanting to know if I'm going to do another one with updated info. I don't know. It depends on how my schedule goes. So, but yeah, I just shared what I knew. Not that I'm an expert at anything, just, and we've had like people on the podcast, like we had a copywriter on the podcast who talked about the F pattern of reading, where people read the first line all the way through, part of the next line, and just a little bit of the next line, then they skip down to the next paragraph. So if you're trying to do copy to grab people's attention, you want to write in your F pattern, or at least put your most important information in that F pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I just things you wish you knew before.
And I'm a reader like that. I read the important stuff, and so when Lindsay sends me a big old long email that's like this long, I just hit all the bullet points.
Yeah.
She loves when I give her a hard time.
What can I say?
All right. I think that brings us to the end of the questions, and I thank you guys for sharing your insights and experiences with us and the audience. And I know people are going to love this. There's a lot of people in the community here who want to do Kickstarters.
Yeah, no, this is really fun. And it's actually kind of therapeutic to talk about, because my husband has no clue what I've been doing. And he's like, why are you stressed out? I'm like, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
So I appreciate being able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun.
I get
anything that we can do to help other authors, because that's what we're here for, right? We all want to help each other. So
yeah, that's what we were talking about, that we love, just talking to other authors and, seeing what they're doing and what we can do. So I don't know if you guys want to continue to hang out while I show my Kickstarter.
Yes, 100%. The video at the very beginning of the live kicking up was so cool. I was very envious of that.
Yeah, your intro.
Very awesome.
Thank you. I actually just today put together a trailer to put on my Kickstarter, because I did not ever do anything for a video. And videos, of course, are really important when it comes to your Kickstarter. I don't know why I've been like a little bit like lazy, but not lazy, because I'd say extremely busy. But I've been like, what's the right word? Like, I've not been putting as much pressure on myself for this Kickstarter as I did for the first one, where I had like everything done like ahead of time. And this one, I did the trailer this morning, which my editing program went to not work well, so it was rough.
That's like plans. Yeah.
Kickstarter is not saturated. Did I spell that right? I think so. Yeah, it's not saturated yet, which is great. I feel like most of my books are coming from Kickstarter now. Me too.
I actually have been getting a lot lately too. I'm like, I must be going through a phase. This is fun. I like this phase.
All right, so I'm going to start with the trailer that I made this morning. So let me get that pulled up. Find the right button. Here we go. Oh, nope, that's not the right button.
Movie premiere.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I love it. That is so cool.
Wish I had more time on it, but yeah, I was like, okay, how do you guys feel?
No, that looks awesome.
That is so neat. We didn't even do a video. Man, we're lame.
I know.
Well, you did something, right?
She talked on there and did.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did one of me, but I mean, I didn't do anything cool like that. What do you use to do something like that? Do you use Canva or?
What I'm using, and the reason why I had trouble with this because they've stopped supporting it. It's hit Home Express. You can't even get it anymore. And so now it's like, it's really slow. Like I'll click a button, I have to wait for it to go. Click a button, wait for it to go. Move a clip, wait for it to go. It's like, that's what I was dealing with this morning. And I was like, oh my gosh.
That's annoying.
I had to find something new. I've always wanted to get into DaVinci Resolve, which is free. And it has lots of stuff to, because I like using lots of editing features and whatnot. It is a little bit of a learning curve. And then Devin in the chat, she was talking about, because I was talking about this morning in my stream. Devin, what was it? Was it the clip champ, I think? And she says she uses that for the 16:9 videos, but it's also good for like reels and TikToks and stuff like that.
Ooh, interesting.
So good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Y'all know I was like stressing over this thing this morning because I could not get it to work. That was great. Thank you, Shelly.
That was really great. Yeah, that was really great.
That's the name of it.
Okay, I'm gonna.
So while we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my Kickstarter.
Yay!
Oh, clip. No M in it. No M in the before the P.
Oh.
Typo.
I assumed. It's so exciting.
Yay. So I'm just going to show off a couple things. There were some, I shared this early with my readers, which if your PA was on the email newsletter, she might have seen this or he might have seen this already. But I asked them to, give me comments. And so my readers commented on things that they wanted to see. So I added some of those things in. And I really like, these things over here did not exist when I did my last one. So I took advantage of it. And I did little emojis because I love emojis.
Oh, that is cool.
So, but then this was a quote from my book that I didn't even remember, but one of my readers pointed out that I asked them to pull out any quotes that they liked as they were reading, my beta readers and alpha readers. And so this was really good, one that they pulled out. And
that's a really good quote.
I was thinking that too. Because I was like, how do I hit this? My meeting that I was having with Michael, I was like, my book doesn't fall neatly into a genre because it has like these other things. It's not real dark, but it's dark. But it's not dark enough to be dark fantasy. Dark fantasy, it's fantasy romance, but it's not regular fantasy romance. It's epic fantasy romance. And so he helped me with some of this copy. So talking about the cuss word stuff, he said the other one. And I was like, I don't cuss. He was like, then stuff. And I was like, okay, well, how about if I do it capitalized and do a poop emoji? But yeah. So some of the things that my readers asked for is they wanted the stretch goals. I had not had that in there, so now I put that in there.
Perfect.
And so hopefully this will make sense.
Yeah,
it looks good.
And then someone asked me to do the artists and designers, which I was already thinking of, but I was really unsure how to go about it because like I do have a book cover designer, but I did the dragon for my book cover.
And, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. And then I've done a lot of my book covers. So and then my map, I'm a discovery writer. I'm probably a lot like you, Christy. I don't really plan things. I just write. So like my map, when I first came up with the idea, I knew what was happening in the North because my first book took place in the North and there's the four quadrants where the four brothers were at. And I was like, so can I just come back to you and get the other stuff added once I figure out the rest of the map? And he was like, sure. But I went back to him and yeah, he's no longer working. So I had to find stuff and manipulate like buildings. And I tried like 3 or 4 different castles to put in the stuff in the west side for the castle there and the town and everything. So yeah, that was fun. But,
so you're forced to learn things. That's just how it works, right? Then you'll know how to do it next time.
Yeah. And I mean, I do like artsy stuff. I've painted a lot in my life, and but I'm writer first and foremost. But graphic design was not something I had really done until getting into these books. So I put that in there. Everybody who did whatever, and then this is one of my covers I had put in there. This is the only cover I have. It has a little bit. It was aided by AI. And I got a designer and they just kind of copied my design and I just like mine better, but I'm giving it a choice to the backers that they can choose to get the designer design.
That. That's a great idea.
So yeah, because mine does use a little bit of AI. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much a big thing. One thing that I really this was something that Michael Evans introduced us to David. I don't know how to say his last name with the V. He does Scare Mail. Have you heard about that, Scare Mail? So he's come and talked to a group that I'm part of, and Devin was in that group too. And her and we were both thinking along the same lines. I think she kind of came up with an idea for hers. And so I wanted to add something different to the Kickstarter. So instead of, it's not Scare Mail, so mine's Faded Adventure Story Mail. So it's a fantasy mystery romance. And this is still taking place in the same world where I have a set of novellas happening in this world already. And so this is just something that's gonna be through mail and interactive online with clues and, solving puzzles and stuff to figure out what's going on. So that I'm really excited about this part.
That is really cool. That's very creative. I like that.
Yeah. So thanks to David and Michael bringing him in. All right. And then the special edition. So I didn't really go all out for special. I've seen some people with really great special editions, but I did not. When I was trying to price it, of course, Book Vault has like the best print on demand, but you have to order it from the UK. There's the extra cost for shipping. By the time I figured that all in, I was like, I'm going to be charging so much for these books. I mean, who's going to want to buy this book? I don't know how some of these other people are doing it. So I did find it's Painted Wings. It's in the Facebook group on Facebook, the Kickstarter group. It's Painted Wings. I put it down at the very bottom. What is it here? Painted Wings Publishing Services. So they do printed designs, and it's anywhere from $75 up to like $150 or more, depending if your design's really in depth. But they take your finished PDF file, and so I gave them my finished PDF file, and then they print it. They put the stuff on the edges in the PDF so that I can send it to Ingram Spark, and it will be printed. And I just did mine as a solid color because I couldn't think of what to do, to be honest, and I was running out of time. And I was just like, I'll just do a color that goes with my cover. And then I did this dragon scale. I got this from Deposit Photos, and then I love that. Yeah, I changed the saturation and the temperature to match the book cover. And I wanted something just simplistic, so it just has the title on the spine, and that's it. So
yeah, I really like simple. That's really pretty too.
Thank you. So alrighty, if we are ready, we are going to hit launch. And then for everybody who's out there who might want to back it, I do have, I forgot to show that. I should show it real quick. Hold on. There is the, this was like my first one, early dragon reward tiers, first 72 hours. If you back this one, it's just $1. You don't have to pay for shipping. It's actually where I would lose money, but it helps to bump up the Kickstarter in the algorithm by getting all that notice in the beginning. And actually didn't lose that much money on the first Kickstarter. So, but yeah, $1 for a dragon sticker. It's a unique sticker. This is like a pack of a bunch of different stickers that I have, and they're all unique. So if anyone wants to just back it for $1, you can get a dragon sticker. So
that is so cool. What a great idea.
Yeah, I try to think of something. Some people do like they'll take a tier and they'll like reduce it, like a reduced price for like the first 72 hours to kind of, but your people who want to support you are going to be the first ones in, and then they will support you at full price. And if you're reducing something, now you're getting less than what you could. So I was trying to find a way to do it that would still get people in and interested right away without losing that support. So
I'm learning so much from you. I love it.
Yay. All right. Yes, Richard. Hello, Richard. He was backer number 2 on that one on my first Kickstarter. So I appreciate
yay. That's exciting. So, he's back for more.
Know a few authors who sprayed edges and special editions will do it yourself to save. Okay, so I have. My husband's like, when are you getting rid of these books? I have a stack of books out there in the living room that I have tried to do on my own sprayed edges, and it did not work out.
Same. I've tried it too, and I made a big old mess and ruined some books.
Yeah, I ruined a lot of books. My first one, the first day that I did it, I was like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. I kept saying that I'm not supposed to be doing this because my clamp fell apart. I have 4 clamps, one fell apart. And then I got a paper cut right away, and it ended with the spray can blowing up on me.
Oh no.
So
see, mine looked pretty, but I guess the paint didn't want to stay on the book, and it would just fleck off all over the place and get all over your hands. And I was like, I don't think I did this right.
Yeah. Mine did that too. So I've tried a couple. I have several books that they're messed up now. So, and I just want to say hi real quick to everyone who came in. There's quite a few people. Anita says DaVinci Resolve is good, but uses a lot of computer resources. Clipchamp is not bad. That's what I use. I'll have to check it out. And yeah, when I had an older computer, I couldn't use DaVinci Resolve because that's the first one I wanted to use. And then I went with HitFilm because I didn't have enough computer resources, but I have a really high-speed computer now. It's a Microsoft product. Okay, so if someone has Mac, then they can't use Clipchamp. Is that the idea? And it's a green book next to the story. Yes, it is. I don't like green, so we have this thing.
Oh, that's fun. That's hilarious.
My first series is an Irish trilogy, and it's green covers. And I'm like, when I decided to change, and I'm $4,000 in debt with that series still because did all the things you're supposed to do to get an editor and all this stuff. And I'm like, I can't continue publishing. Like I make money off of it, but I'm gonna be 83 years old before I pay it off. And so I was like, I'm gonna try Kickstarter, and I thought, well, I'm gonna go with blue. That's my favorite color. And I was like, I really love dragons. So there's only one dragon left in the Irish mythologies, and I plugged him into the story as much as I could in the Irish myths that I wrote. So I was like, I want to do dragons. So blue, that's ice dragons. Let's do it. We're doing ice dragons.
That's fun.
Andy, hello, welcome. Thank you for stopping in. People saying hello, lovely cover. Thank you. The light font on the darker background, the designer version is a little easier to read, but otherwise they look very similar. Yeah, I think theirs is a little bit bigger. And yeah, there's a few things I like on the designer cover, and I've thought about playing around and like pulling certain elements from it and putting it on my cover, but that will be a future thing. So, oh no, I'm late. You're just on time, Richard. No worries. And people are saying hello, hello.
This is so exciting.
Yes. Sell the rejects, Shannon. Nobody wants to buy the rejects. I've tried. So, I have tried. I love DaVinci Resolve, but I use it on a gaming desktop. Mine is actually a gaming desktop too. My brother built it for me. He's a computer guy, and he knows that I make lots of videos. As you can see, I made my trailer and everything. So I made all the videos. So I do that a lot. So he made sure that my computer was good. And DaVinci Resolve is pretty good. Yeah, I love that all the stuff that DaVinci Resolve can do. It's just learning it. Ooh, are we talking about fonts? No, we're not. I will accept a reject. Oh, I appreciate that, Devin. Okay, let's hit launch. Drum roll. Oh, I should have had a drum roll sound. Did it do it? It's yay!
Yay!
Thank you. You heard lunch. Well, that's probably my tone deafness. No, I don't really play games, so.
Well, here we are. So yeah, and then people can also see what the real dashboard looks like too once you launch.
Oh yeah, that's true. And we have Devin has a Kickstarter. Her first one's going in April, and Rachel. I don't remember yours, Rachel. Is it May? I think hers is May. And this will be Rachel's second one. Her and I did one the same year before. And so, yeah. So for those who are brand new to it, yeah. What did you guys see? Or Lindsay, what was it that you saw that was brand new when you did this? Because it might be new for me too, since the last one.
Well, as far as the whole everything on the left-hand side, that is all, well, I would say new based on what I never had access to any of that before. So I was like, whoa, when all that popped up, I didn't even know how to get back to my actual, once you click on something, I was like, how do I get back to my campaign, just the campaign page, right? So I think it's just, I didn't expect that whole side panel. And then as far as what's new though, on the actual page, I didn't really have anything to compare it to. I just feel like there's been a lot of, throughout the whole setup process, there's been a lot of little things that pop up in Kickstarter saying, this is our new blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, well, I wouldn't know the difference. So I just kind of ignore it. But yeah, I didn't know you could do emojis. That is really cool. I'm sure there's a gazillion things that we don't know we can do with it, but that's really neat.
I honestly didn't know either. It was totally by mistake because I had emoji as one of my lines I'd written in there. And I thought, oh, I'm going to make that the headline. And I didn't think it was going to do it. And it did it. And I was like, oh, well, I'm doing this for all of them.
Yeah, so, that's really neat. What did you put for your risks?
Oh, I think
I'm just curious about what some authors, what they think their challenges and stuff are.
Yeah, so the artwork is completed. The book is still going through a final editing process, but it's pretty much done. And then delayed, I had to make sure I put it in there from the printing and distribution company because that's what delayed everything for me last time.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. It's really fair. I think for ours, because we're also doing audiobooks, and so ours is obviously also, we have contracts and plans set in place, but life happens and hopefully they will be done in time, but they're already well on their way. But that was a risk that when we went into it, is the audiobooks may be late. So, and
I think you put that into your because I don't have this, but you guys have a part of your story where you're talking about timelines, and I think you put that in there, right? The audiobook.
Yeah, actually, I did. I added that. Yeah, I saw somebody else do that, and I said that was so smart. Because as you can tell, as Christy has explained, I don't ever know. I'm really good at oversharing and giving too much information. So I really kind of struggled with our story page of trying to reel myself in. But then at the same time, I don't know that now is the time to be doing that. I mean, I think people really want to see everything. So I think for me, that was kind of a struggle too, of trying to figure out what's too much information and what's not enough. So again, it's part of, what I would do differently next time. But I also had the intention of making some sort of trailer at some point, but I never got around to it.
What would you do differently? Would you add more or would you take away?
I don't know. I think I would add more images and stuff of the interior because I was kind of stingy with that. But I don't want to give it all away. I want it to be a fun experience for people when they're going through, not to see it all in the Kickstarter already and know what they're going to get. But so I think for me, that's been probably the hardest part for me. But I also know that people want to know what they're going to be spending $70 to $100 on a book for. Sure. Like, I totally get that. So I think that was a struggle for me for sure. So I would add more interior images and, I don't know, something more with the interior. I think maybe do another video, actually looking, because I did a bunch for social media, but I didn't put anything in the actual Kickstarter of the interior, like a video of, going through and showing what it looks like. But again, part of me is so stingy. I don't really want to do that, but I probably would do that too. So,
I mean, you could always, that could be part of your stretch goals. Like your first ones, like interior artwork and, to be determined.
That's smart.
And that way you're not showing it, but they know they're getting it.
The other thing that I really wanted to do, but I didn't know, let's be honest, I didn't spend a ton of time trying to figure it out because I could have. But the other thing that I really wanted to figure out, I wanted to put in clips from the audiobooks. I do have one from mine, and I was like, I don't really know how to do that. And I didn't take the time to really figure it out. But I think I would do that next time too. And I would, because I mean, I had a clip, so why not? I had permission to use it, but again, no.
Does the audio clips?
I don't know. I mean, it has to, right? Or maybe it can't. I mean, I have no idea. But I was thinking that would be
the audio clip to like a picture of your book, and then just make it a video and put that into your Kickstarter. So if you can't do an audio clip, an MP3, make it an MP4.
That's smart. Yeah. See. Okay. So next time I'm going to do that if there's an audiobook involved. But yeah, no, I did consider that too. And I think that would have been really good too, especially if you are an audiobook listener. The voice of the characters really matters to people. So, and I am an avid audiobook listener, so I understand.
And see, with my tone deafness, I can't understand most narrators. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wish I could do audiobooks because I could get so much more done while I'm listening to my books.
Right?
Versus sit there and read it. But
that's funny.
All righty. Well, we have covered everything that I was hoping that we'd be able to get done for today. So what's next for you guys? Now that this collaboration is nearly over, there's 2 more days left on your guys' Kickstarter. Again, it is linked in the chat at the top of the chat box, and it's also in the description box down below. But what is next for you guys?
Chrissy, go ahead. I'll go for you.
I'm just writing more books and, the thing with Kickstarter, I liked it because it reminds me of how I run my club, which is essentially instead of, you're getting monthly, subscriptions or whatever. And so it just kind of breathed new life into what I want to do for my club by doing this with Lindsey. So it gave me some ideas because I had kind of burned out on my club and what I could offer and what I could do. And so now I can kind of pick and choose some things that we did for this and turn it around and use it for my club in a low-key manageable way, whereas Kickstarter seemed like really intense to me. And so I can kind of do that like on my own, and I think that'll be fun. So
but you're not going to do a Kickstarter on your own, right? Is that what you said?
I mean, I might one day, but I don't know. It's still very overwhelming for me just because there's so much, like, there's just a lot.
There is a lot.
It's fun doing it with, and I'm so glad that she's with me, but I like when people do it by themselves, I just think that took a lot of time.
Yeah, I think for me, it's funny that you said that, Chrissy, about your membership, because I also have this new, I don't know, like this invigoration to go and try. I don't really have any hobbies. I mean, used to be writing and reading, and now I feel like that's obviously very closely connected to my business. So while I do enjoy reading and writing, I can't really call it a hobby anymore. Because outside of that, I don't really do a lot. But I've always been really crafty too. And so I have actually spent a weekend doing some crafts and stuff for my membership, some things that I want to send, not having to do with my books. Obviously, I'm not like knitting a blanket to send them or anything, but yeah, so I've been really I've got like the creative juices flowing too. So aside from writing my Viking vampires for my Scarlet pen name, I'm looking forward to doing some more fun stuff for my membership as well, because I mean, that's why we do this, right? So we can be closer connected to them. And
yes.
And I told my husband, this is an excuse for me I'm going to find a hobby, damn it. And it's going to be fun and they're going to benefit from this. And so.
And I'm a member of your club, so I will benefit from it.
Yeah. Rachel says
I'm going to get a message.
Vampires.
Yeah, no context needed. It's been really fun. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, and my goal this year was to spend more time with my readers and to write more. And so these two things are exactly in line with what I want to be doing. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So thank you, Lindsey and Chrissy, for joining me today. This was lots of fun and to learn about
fun. Yeah, thank you for having us. This was great. And I'm excited to have you on my podcast.
And congrats on your Kickstarter launch.
Thank you. I think that's, yeah, make sure you guys check out both of the campaigns. Again, Lindsey's and Chrissy's is linked in the chat. And then both of the campaigns are linked down below. And we'll leave there. We'll say bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Yay.